the Nigerian post-colonial state has not behaved in a fundamentally different way from the colonial state. Even though operated by Nigerians, the post-colonial state has been as alien and as predatory as its colonial predecessor. As late Professor Klodake argued in the early 1990s, this legacy has its roots in the colonial era when political discourses excluded not only democracy, but even the idea of good government. And politics was reduced to the clash of one exclusive claim to power against another. The question therefore is, how can the business of state be serious business in a context where public governance is largely a predatory exercise in which power is captured from citizens and not freely given by citizens? A context in which the consent of the people is not integral to the constitution of our democracy. And contrary to the pretensions that some neoliberal economists may have, the truth is that without a modern state, there cannot be an economy or society. Therefore, before good public governance, there must be a modern state, a developmental state in the real sense. A predatory state such as we have it cannot give back to proper public governance and a sense of justice and fairness. And those of us in politics and public office may delude ourselves about possibilities of control by fiat or by the belief that ordinary citizens are too burdened by the minutiae of survival and consequently risk-averse. Recent events in other places have brought the contradictions of the democratic recession into a sharper focus. Let's just look around Africa. In the last few years, we have seen war break out in Ethiopia and the Sudan. We have also witnessed armed uprisings in places like Cameroon, Chad, Central African Republic, Kenya, and Mozambique. Even as old and long-running conflicts in Somalia, Eastern Democratic Republic of Congo, the Casamance region of the Senegambia have continued to fester in their mutation. Furthermore, across the Sahel, belt of the continent, military coups have been carried out by segments of the armed forces, with the most recent being the takeover next door to us in Niger in July 2023. Beyond the Sahel, similar military interventions have been registered in Guinea-Conakry and Gabon. These developments are unfolding in a generalized context of prolonged violent insecurity. Even in places where violent contestations of the nation-state have not burst out into the open, clear signs of subterranean stability and unity of many a polity into question. What the above underscore is the urgency of now. Whether one's immediate concern is limited to police reform, as we reflect upon the rationale and the challenges of unitary versus multi-level policing in Nigeria, or one looks towards the Niger Delta, where despite efforts at addressing its unique challenges, there is a continuous and bloody demand for justice and equity, or you examine the endless pretext for ethnic strife and bloodletting between the indigenous people and the so-called settlers in the Middle Belt and the north-central Nigeria, alongside the marauding bandits in the northwest and the insurgents in the northeast, not to mention the ethnic irredentists in the southeast and the southwest, and whether you scrutinize the regular apocalyptic predictions of despondent Nigeria about the fate and future of the country, or you contemplate what will happen if measures are not taken to arrest the crisis of governance, you cannot but come to the conclusion that Nigeria needs to be reimagined, recreated, and remade. Whilst the manifesto I've shared with you this morning may not represent magic bullets, which once adopted will automatically resolve all extant problems of nation building, and indeed no proposal can attain such lofty heights, I take solace in some lines from my favorite poem by Alfred B. Tennyson called Ulysses, and I know many of us read that poem in our formative years. I cannot rest from travel. I will drink life to the lees. It is not too late to seek a newer world. It may be that the gulf will wash us down. It may be we shall touch the happy hours, one equal temper of heroic hands, made weak by time and fate, but strong in will, to strive, to seek, to find, and not to yield. This is the least we owe our brother and friend Emeka. Emeka never gave up on Nigeria. He always believed a greater Nigeria, a better Nigeria, a more prosperous Nigeria, a Nigeria that is fair to all our people is possible, but it must be the product of our collective struggle. This giant must walk. We must not yield.
You know, Central Central District, on the platform of the APC in the 8th Senate, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, President of the Civil Rights Congress of Nigeria and the Chairman of Hand in Hand Africa, most distinguished Senator of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, Senator Shehu. He has had a distinguished governing council member of the FinTech Association of Nigeria, member of the Technical Subcommittee of the Nigerian Economic Summit Group, and a member of so many influence worldwide groups. He is chairman of ProShare, Nigeria's foremost financial intelligence hub, and is a member of the National Institute of the Fellow of the Institute of Chartered Accountants of Nigeria. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Chairman of ProShare, Mr. Femi Awoye. Will be joining us online, and it underlines the fact that he's a man ahead of his time. He belongs on the gender, good governance, and economic growth in Nigeria since his student days as a student unionist at the University of Nigeria in Nsukka. So I guess all the lions here are proud. He has remained relevant to Nigeria's political discourse for decades and continues to speak truth to power to death. He's a political economist, professor at the Lagos Business School and former presidential candidate, founder of the Center for Values and Leadership, Professor Patrick Okedinachi Utoni, of London, and later as a project and management consultant. Is an expert in internationalization and joint ventures and has worked on various international projects across the globe. He's a public speaker, media expert, essayist, speaker, strategist, farmer, project director, and a teacher. He's a Jean Monnet Professor of Strategy and Development. He's a provost at the Washington Institute of Strategic and Developmental Studies, amongst others. Please welcome Professor I will not recognize people individually. Members of the diplomat
also want to very, for the purpose of our assignment here, thank the keynote speaker for setting the tone so strongly, and even before him, the chairman, who also put some teasers, on the table. Our chat from Professor Kiyade, maybe we'll just take a short reaction. What do you think from that where the keynote speaker ended, and then we'll just move on to that. Thank you.
Thank you very much. A big thank you to the chairman, to our keynote speaker. I don't know what I'm looking at me, I think I'm going to feel okay wrong. I'm not even saying anything. Oh, it's not okay. But I think, a couple of things. One, in terms of optics, we really need to rethink our politics in this country because we have two former governors who seem to look better out of office than when they were in office. Well, Dr. Faye's speech, for those who listen carefully, tells you one key thing before you go to the details of it, that thinking is important. That is what came to my mind. That for us to progress as a people, before even as a country, as a people, being able to reason is a very crucial thing. Because the ability to raise issues, have them into context, whether you agree or not, my first thought is that if we want to move forward in this country, it is crucial for us to agree that thinking is important. And what thinking does is allows you to put text into context, weigh possible consequences, and then choose the best option. If we agree on that, a lot of the troubles in which we find ourselves, perhaps we can avoid them. Because that would mean that if we truly decide to think, that means that we're going to renegotiate a lot of things about Nigeria. And I think that speech says so. I'll stop at that and go ahead.
If JFK gives a speech, there are three elements. Reminding you that he's a politician, I'm choosing not to look at his side. Reminding you that he's a politician, there are a lot of unspoken words in that presentation. And I can point out a few. One is that he did not talk to you about the trust deficit between the state and the public. In the examples he cited for those who are academically inclined, Professor Liu spoke about it very well when he spoke about the relationship between the trust between the citizens and the state and how it affects output. The second thing he did not talk to you about is the concept of state like man, wherein the whole vortex of society is involved in what you may call productive activities, the lack of vision, or the lack of execution capacity. The third most important thing, which is every time we explore, which he did not talk to you about, is that we never, ever resolve what is the central question about the Nigerian state. He gave you so many dimensions for the thought process from scholars and from reform persons, and indeed himself, as the president of the governance forum. You may want to read that part of it because it's an improvement of here. I am not one of those who are given to positivity. A society like this will inform people, intelligent people, former governors, current deputy governor, and those who have held their senate by their scores. The question we hardly ever deal with is that we haven't reached that consensus on the fact that do we want to replace this thing with what, which is what Jeremy said. But my own concern is always the one thing. You never improve the candle. You just create an electric light. And that improvement is actually occurring in different dimensions of which we are not paying attention to. And it is those dimensions that I will share more thoughts. Thank you.
It is an honor and a privilege to be invited here as a discussant on the platform provided by the Prince Nika Obasi Foundation. And thank you very much for that. Well, I have carefully listened to the presentation by JFK. Many people here, I believe, overwhelming number, knew him as former state governor. But each time he sees me, he knows what I will remind him of. He was one of those who were at the forefront of the struggle for democracy. One of those who were forced into exile when the military were hunting for them. I believe in a nation like this, it's not simply about us, younger generation, admiring what the man
Mandela, Governor Mbeki, Walter Sisulu, and other revolutionaries in South Africa did. But it is also important for young people to know that this democracy was a product of struggle and sacrifice by some people. People paid dearly with their lives, and people went to prison for Nigeria to be where it is today. I can see the Deputy Governor of Abia State, and I have a connection with Abia State. In 1995, I was one of those who were arrested by the military regime of General Sani Abacha. And we were brought in from Kaduna to Kirikiri prison here. And after 8 months in Kirikiri prison, I was sent to trial in a military tribunal and sentenced to life imprisonment for treason for our attempt to overthrow that government. And after getting my conviction together with Ambassador Joe and other persons, and the late Radua, not the one you know, is Kaduna. The government of General Sani Abacha decided that those of us who are from the north will be sent to southern prisons, and those of them who are from the south will be sent to northern prisons. In my life, I've never been to Abia State. So I was transferred from Kirikiri prison here to Port Harcourt prison. And I was in Port Harcourt prison when the late King Sarula was executed. So I mistakenly wrote about it and it was published out. And from there I was taken out of Port Harcourt prison to Aba prison in Abia State. So I found myself in an Aba. I used to hear the story of it. I was in Mandela, but I spent 4 years there. So by the time I came out of the town, and I've seen the town for the first time. So each time I see people from Abia, I felt I was part of your state.
Mr. Moderator, sir, I have to come in, butt in, and apologize to all the women of Nigeria for our insensitivity, because we know you are no longer in the kitchen. I understand about Nigeria. We know the problems of the country, and we know the solutions. But by the time we get into power, what are the problems and the solution? The people in the position of authority today were in the vanguard. They were part of us in the vanguard of the struggle for the structure of this country. And it's as if we have the magic wand that will solve all the problems of Nigeria from 2015 to date. So we are still discussing the problem. So if that is what we want, then we should continue to discuss the problem without solving the problem. Thank you very much.
I don't know if Dr. Rakusi is ready for a short remark. Just, okay, so you just take that before we get down.
Distinguished. This is all okay, because I am a growth mindset and integrative lifestyle specialist. We have the solutions to the Nigerian challenge. And shortly, I had told Betty that in the next, probably early June, we're going to publicly present it to the government. Nigeria has a challenge of behavioral patterns of people. We have a low quality citizenship.